The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of culture brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craft work that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly and uses his ears to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best, again and again exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt executed again and again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S Street Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living God stepping in score. SUNEZ aka Skillustrator Low, and we're on S Street Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show, every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. And as I always say, this show is about my element of hip-hop, what I like to call the writer of art on art and science on music, the only show in hip-hop history on this hip-hop writer element that I have been honored to be a pioneer and a contributor for over 25 years. And there was a post, and some guy was talking about the Renaissance. Can you check this out? He was talking about the Renaissance. He said, hey, who's most responsible for this Renaissance, you know? And I said, you know what? I don't even know about all that. But I'm the one that called it that. And he was like, oh, yeah, word? Well, where you came from? Where you came from? I ain't even had to say nothing. I just post this nice little book over here. And the 200 plus articles on premierhiphop.com, my entire resume. Oh, yeah. And a couple of dope ass MCs, pioneers, the progressives, the revolutionary musicians of this Renaissance chimed in and gave me that salute, though. So, led by S.STREET. I gotta say, peace of the God. You know what I mean? One of the most progressive of this year. You know what I mean? You know, most of this episode I'll be talking about Nas, but I think that one of the fair critiques that you always have, that you can always have about nearly every veteran artist, if you really wanted an argument that lasts all the time, to go against them, is to say that today's music has progressive young that are doing it way bigger and everything like that. But those guys didn't come out on Nas's album, so we ain't got to name them. But here's the interesting thing. As far as that goes, right? And I have S.STREET on my mind because I still think that with boleros and I don't know. I guess I'll throw in Stove God Cooks. You know, they're kind of like I don't even want to say S.STREET is in the crime rhyme arena because he's not. He's too broad for that. But if you're a surface listener, he's definitely swimming in those waters. But his Boleros album is really like one of the most progressive innovations. I don't even think it's his best album this year, but it's just one of the most important albums I've heard in a long time because of what he's doing there. You know, I gotta build with the guy, get some of his ideas and how he constructed that and stuff. But he kind of made a trap album out of something not superficial. You know what I mean? Which intrigued the hell out of me, you know? Just really dope. And as we record this show, I want to keep today's show to as best as I can. I know that I'm going to break this. I have it written down here that I'm going to break this rule. But I want to keep it to the glorious part of my work, an appreciation of the individuals that make the greatest music, and not always the unnecessary ones where we have to depreciate, right? And especially so because we're filming this on Kobe Bryant Day, right? August 24th, 8/24, the two numbers he was retired at, as, you know, and remembered in perfection. I always have this hashtag that I throw out there with Kobe. Makes me think of Kobe, inspires me, and focuses the inspiration that Kobe's entire life was Some people say Mamba mentality, but I always look at that acronym, Kobe, keep on building everywhere. You know, for some reason, for a distinct reason, actually, not some reason, a distinct reason, reading through, studying Kobe, as he retired, it became more of a study of his nature. You know, all the things that people said, that's why we should listen to, and I'm throwing the darts, I'm sorry, I apologize to my producer, though, there's a lot of darts this man's way. You know, we're in Brooklyn, but I gotta do it. The truth is, and this is not really a dart, this is really true. A lot of people listen to post super rich Jay-Z, you know what I mean? Because they want to get clues, like, how did he do it? You know, like, they almost buy his albums like they're self-help literature. You know what I mean? Maybe I could get some clues about how to be a billionaire. And then you listen, and he's like, and, you know, oh, I'm swimming in my money. It's so much that I could do backstrokes. You know, like, look at Blue Ivy. Oh, no, look, she's got more than you ever had in your whole life, and she's only 3 years old. You know what I'm saying? She's got $1,000 in her pocket, though, and, you know, you're working summer youth jobs. You know, like, he's just crapping on everybody. You know what I mean? So you don't really get much of an insight, you know what I mean? You just get like the surface stuff. So everybody makes up new hashtags to justify it, and they go black excellence, right? We don't really get insights out of Jay-Z albums, though. We just get people taking a picture of Jay and Bay, and then they go, look at that, black excellence. And then if it's Blue Ivy, right? Because the babies are the greatest, they go black girl magic. If it's Beyonce by herself, though, no matter how much flesh she displays, they go black girl excellence, black girl magic. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? But here's the thing: when Kobe retired, more and more people started to realize that he's an incredibly insightful individual. You know, not just like the fans that were watching, like you know, like my brother Terrence, watching you know, post-game interviews and stuff. You know what I mean? You know, there was an insight that he had, a perspective that he had that was really insightful. And you know, I definitely suggest you go out there and you get the Mamba Mentality book. I forget the entire title of the Roland Lansby book, but it's called Showboat. It's probably something like The Life and Times of Kobe or something. You know, some generic. But if you write Showboat in Roland Lansby, like, you know, you write Showboat, Kobe Bryant in your Amazon search engine, you'll find that book. I found that to be the best biography about him, you know. Very, very insightful, very intriguing. You know, so you get a lot of stories of how he was sunning everybody, his furious work ethic, you know what I mean? All of those things. And then they're reiterated, like the most important. If you had to concentrate the best of Kobe, it definitely would be in that Mamba Mentality book. And if you wanted to see, if you didn't know that he was just a legendary, next level. I was going to say tremendous, but Trump has really ruined that word. I can't say it, though. You see me, when I have a stopgap, it's because of that. You know what I mean? But the most boring documentary ever is Spike Lee's documentary on Kobe Bryant, though. Boy, that shit was so boring, though. Because it actually was like school. Because Kobe didn't score that many points that game, and yet he analyzed the hell out of that. And I was getting nothing out of that game. You know, I was so bored with it. Again, like I said, I didn't appreciate it until now. But I'm saying my first impressions when I saw it. Because he actually scored about 50-something at the Garden earlier, but that wasn't the game that he recorded, that Spike Lee had all the cameras on him. So the story goes something like that. But when you hear Kobe's analysis of every little thing that he's doing, it's like everything. He's like an actor on stage. Like where he's standing, if it's stage right, stage left, if he has his hand on the individual's hip, if he bumps into a person, everything is calculated. And the thing with Kobe is that almost everything he was doing had an actual fruition. Almost everything he was doing eventually worked, like had a fruit to it, which is, you know, that's why he's, you know, GOAT level, you know. And I love the letter that Allen Iverson wrote to him. That was beautiful stuff. So I had to mention that on us doing this show on Kobe Bryant Day. Really the first Kobe Bryant Day. And with all this COVID, all this Trump hell, riots, all of that, we forget that he returned to the essence this year. Just 7 months ago. It's this year has aged ridiculously, right? It feels like I saw my producer like 5 years ago. You know what I mean? And these are all post-apocalyptic shows. You know what I mean? And the Invisible Renaissance is like a new one. In fact, if we talk about music, though, the pumping of great music was the only thing that continued. But see, here's another thing, inspiration, though. I haven't done an art, kind of recital thing, and I just want to throw something out there, that way I could give a thank you, I could segue it, and also segue it this way. In the Nas comments that people threw on my Instagram and stuff, somebody wrote old head rap. And said, I'm glad that Nas didn't give us the old head rap. Boy, that made me flinch. You know what I mean? Like old head rap. Like I was really like cringing hearing that thought. You know what I'm saying? And like, I hate when somebody does something good and then they say, yeah, I'm glad he did it good because everybody else sucks at the whole thing. Nas is not an anomaly of 40-year-old MCs. He's not like, he's the guy in the biggest commercial limelight that gives us the closest thing we have to like integrity-laced MCing. Because I'm sorry, Jay-Z's not doing that. You know what I mean? If you thought the Carter's album was a bastion of musical integrity, good luck. You know what I mean? Good luck with your ears. You know what I mean? You got the wrong things bouncing off them. You know what I mean? But there's a whole bunch of 40-year-old MCs that are just making great music, not just decent music, okay music. You need to look back. A lot of guys made some really, really strong music, and even myself is quite impressed. Like, for example, if you go back into the last decade, the decade that I say is the beginning of the Invisible Renaissance, the 2010s, KRS-One had a good run in there. Quietly had a good run. He had 2 really good solo albums. He had the album with Showbiz, Godsville, and he had a couple of other things, And I'm not saying it's legendary. I mean, producers doing all these funny finger signs, but and being the Siskel to my Ebert here, but I'm gonna give him some dap here. It's good when you go back, But I think though, maybe my producer will agree with me. You have a lot of greats like the whole Duck Down. Let's not forget that the superstar of the Invisible Renaissance was Sean Price. Come on. Everybody was copying him. They weren't, just because other MCs weren't funny doesn't mean that they weren't copying him. That's what people don't understand, the legacy of Sean Price, because they look for MCs that do things that they think are goofball. Just because you listened incorrectly and only laughed at him, all of us are laughing with him. So we understood that the trends that he was setting, whether it be the clothing and helping to bring the low lives out more, hell, even bring integrity to the Deceps, that they were really a familial reality after the 80s and into the 90s and 2000s. That the boot camp clique really continued to make strong work. Because if we talk about 40-year-old MCs, Buckshot made quality albums, and certainly Smith & Wesson. Certainly Smith & Wesson, you know what I mean? The Pete Rock album, the album that they just came out with, mainly produced by, Ninth Wonder and company. And they did do an EP that was more reggae-laced. I don't know if you ever heard that, It was really good. Very reggae-laced. And I'm forgetting the name of that album. It's an EP, really strong. So off the head, a lot of 40-year-old rappers, MCs come into mind. But another one is Aguilar, and Sadat X, and they're coming out with an album called The Gods Have Arrived. And I'm mentioning that, though, because it relates to me. Aguilar actually, besides all the things he does off off the booth, outside of the booth. Sometimes, he's a little jarring. I tell it to him too. He probably shouldn't be saying all the things he says because, like it's one of those things when elephants argue, nobody understands from afar. Those kind of things. Even if he was right, it's not really the place. You know what I'm saying? It's like if I was arguing with my brother and we were arguing about like trivial shit. Like nobody understands our twin language. You know what I mean? Like nobody knows the little things that we're talking about and everything. So it really wouldn't make any sense, to most people. And but he released 2 albums this year, and what you would think would be the weak album was the strong one. His Fuck You album was okay. It was a little dated, I thought, for him. But the Rona album, I was critical of people that make Rona albums. It actually was pretty good. And some of his better beats. And he had a song about Kobe and stuff. It was very on point. Very on point. Because when Aguilar handles the beats, you get some good stuff. You know what I mean? He never loses the grit in the beat. You know what I mean? And he really has a real master for like a gritty clean. You know what I mean? A gritty clean. There's only a few guys that could do that. I think Large Pro would be like in my head, like as a master of that. You know what I mean? But The Gods Have Arrived, that's coming. Brownsvillian 2 is coming first. And I heard it. It sounds really great. I think I got to listen to it again, though. But it either eclipses or is just as good as the first Brownsvillian. So good for him. It probably has to get better guest appearance because I thought Supreme Cerebral, my man, peace to the God. I just interviewed him, had a great build with him. And it's exclusive because you're not going to find a good build with him anywhere on DJ Toshi's Classic Storm Radio. But Supreme Cerebral really went off on Aguilar's album. But very good album, that Brownsvillian 2 upcoming. That's coming, I think, this Friday, this week or next week. But definitely soon. But I was asked to do a skit on the Gods Have Arrived and stuff, and give a little build about the knowledge of self, and I did my thing. But I had written a piece on Sadat years ago about one of his albums. I think it was Aqua. Was it Aqua album? 016, and it was a piece. So I just called it Salute Sadat. You know what I mean? And I think I was inspired because when I got my L's as a low life. A lot of people don't know you have to show all your low. You got to show that you're wearing low everywhere. Your underwear. You ain't showing your whole underwear, but your labels. You got to make sure your labels are all low. Even if you didn't get the most exclusive low, you got to see if I got something most people don't have. Something different. And I myself, I've never gone for like the typical pieces. I find them too expensive. I'm not asking. I never got into low lives to be asking people for pieces, you know what I mean, or to wear famous or infamous pieces, right? And I like the idea of expressing my creativity by trying to get things that people don't normally have, you know what I mean, and within my own price range, you know what I'm saying. That's why I say the lone life with the home sewn garment. You know what I mean? And if they're not, I spruce them up with some Rack Low RL jewelry. You know what I'm saying? Get some patches from Rack Low and spruce up the low budget Ralph game. If my Ralph game is too low budget. But when I got my L's and I was showing my stuff, Sadat X was right there with me. And he was basically a hype man. So, Sadat X with the great voice. And he's going, yeah, the God has it. I can't do my Sadat X, though. But, with that high pitch. And it just was real memorable. You know what I mean? Just as being a fan, brand new being fan. One for All was one of the first 3 albums I ever bought. First time I ever bought albums with my brother. We bought 3 albums, and that was one of the 3. And just building with Sadat, seeing he's a man of integrity. He does the best that he can. He's always building. And he doesn't even know some of the inspiration that when I met him other times before I even knew him like that, But so I wrote this piece, Salute Sadat. I said, sad at the unknown legend. After the rays come the fears, nature clear and yet the work never so near. There's few brave enough to choose themselves as brand new beings. Seem all is for only one, and everyone's got to do all for them. So for the womb of life to be dear, Almighty got to reproduce on through those rivers, lakes, mountains of that lovely rear. So sun is right alike, SUNEZ I write. Crumbled rocks refine to rush more. Captured thoughts define the goat's lore. Confused start to fight. Others wonder at re-seen fights. Calculated equations from the voice, lyricism and even soul core. The music beyond charting notes and jingles we abhor. These'll all be arrears due us. Reparate this justice they repress. Out of tears to address those who oppress. Sad at unknown waters, but creators live in them. Exalted when the god Dottie was my wild cowboy hype man as I unveiled the chiefs. Got my L's as Rakim Supreme, aka Rudy Lowe. Knighted me among the elite. A Nubian knows to swim 18 tracks with a will few can tell of. Sat at the unknown, still arrives at creation known every time. Poems on play build on songs with words that fall out of fist. Yeah, so that was a little piece though, you know, and I was playing with sad unknown. Sadat X. Sad at unknown. You know what I mean? If you see it written, you get that. But you know, I was just mess with that. But I wanted to spend most of the show going through Nas's album because I think that as a GOAT level MC, still is a GOAT candidate, still is meriting of that. I really wanted to go through that, but I'm going to mention something and I'm going to preface it with this, okay? For those of you that are looking for Nas to be your savior, to be your Jesus Christ in hip-hop, it's really unnecessary. It's really necessary to understand a veteran that is expressing themselves and is still at the pinnacle of his skill levels and expressing himself in new, more experimental ways. So sometimes, just like I say, I appreciate RZA for giving me that next shit, even though it comes with a lot of fails experimentally, because I want to hear something I never heard before from someone that has so much great work. I'm kind of in that same vein with Nas. But I'm going to name you some MCs this year that don't have one album or one EP that is really good. They have at least 2 or 3 or even more works that make them themselves, by themselves, have an entire whole playlist for themselves of just their 2020 work. Okay, so when we talk about Nas, understand that all of us, though, and a lot of people are ranking him not just all time, but within the context of a year that continues to have a lot of great work. So here are guys, though, that are stellar MCs. I didn't say they were better than Nas. I'm not putting them on the footing. I'm not challenging them. I'm not making it unfair for these MCs because that's not fair. They don't even have the time. They haven't even had the time to challenge Nas on that level, or I don't think the context of hip-hop, we're ever going to have the spotlight where the MCs that really could be just as good as Nas are going to get to challenge on that level. You know what I'm saying? Like, the best MCs today, they're never going to chance to have their album get thrown out there the way a Nas album would, or the way an album would back in the 90s, in the mid-90s. You know what I'm saying? Because it's different now, you know? And artists are independent to do it themselves. It's really up to the listener. And you know what? The listener has shown to be shit in general. You know, in general, we still fall for the same trends, underground or above ground, you know, mainstream or, you know, straight from the sewer. So some of these MCs that have multiple albums and works are of a stellar nature, right? Napoleon the Legend. That's at least three, four. He's ridiculous. He even has a more commercial album because he did the continuation of his Afrobeat themed albums. I forget the name of that. It's escaping me. S.TREET. I think it's just called S.TREET. I hope I'm not messing that up. Let me see. There's no need to. I can just check here. Yeah, S.TREET 2. S.TREET 2. See, I'm dope. I didn't mess that up. Rashid Chappelle, who actually has an album coming out that blew me away and that I wrote a whole manifesto for it, and it hasn't been released yet. Supreme Cerebral, who I just mentioned that I interviewed. These are guys with multiple works that are a high level. Raz Fresco, who's already up to Magneto Part 6, Magneto was right, issue 6. And numbers 2 through 6 are from this year. The Great Starving Bee, who has 2 albums. Rome Streets, who basically, it was either pick of the draw, Ito or Rome Streets last year, who was the MC of the year. You know what I mean? Starker, I mentioned Starker last episode. He has a couple of works, and he has a great album, a very progressively dynamic album he did with Al Divino. Al Divino, obviously, on the list too, with multiple works, as an MC and as a producer. Ito, the aforementioned, who Ito Brigante is getting no talk, but it's a really strong album though, and I liked it better than the Beauty of It. Beauty of It got more hype, but I enjoyed Ito Brigante better. Magno Garcia, a very clever, insightful lyricist. You know what I mean? A real thinking, a thinking man's MC. More on the street level, a lot of groove in him. K Burns, a couple of albums. Of course, Rim, right? Friend of everybody here. Our ambassador of all hip hop. Rim has a lot of great works. I've already talked about him. STNAC, I mentioned him. He has multiple albums of note. 38 Special, he's producing for everybody. He's releasing his own EPs, albums. Come on. Leaders in the field. Sleep Sinatra out of Nebraska. As usual, unfortunately, quietly releasing great work. And of course, though, the God Power, Planet Asia, who was already released a couple of short albums, you know, those 30-minute bangers out there. Now, I'm not mentioning people, I'm not even mentioning people with single albums or anything like that. These are all MCs with actual whole playlist where they have multiple works out this year, multiple full-length works out this year. So the environment that Nas is released in is a different type of environment. Okay, it's an environment that when people go, oh, I wanted Nas, I'm disappointed in beats and stuff, understand that it's not just bitching. It's very possible, it depends who, because there's such quality music out there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even mentioning the great works that are just out there by themselves, like MCs with great works that just have one album. Okay, I mentioned to you guys with a whole bunch of stuff. But let's talk about some of the myths, because I love talking about the myths. You know what I mean? You don't want to hear a myth I hate? I hate grown man rap. You know what I'm saying? When they say grown man rap, this is grown man bars. Every time we say that, it isn't because they're appreciating stuff like the way we appreciated the context when you say it correctly, like in the context of Smith & Wesson's last album. Remember? Smith & Wesson's last album, we say, oh, that's grown man bars. You know what I mean? Actual fact. Absolutely. I love the way De La Soul, when they were coming out, that was, I don't know, I'm asking my producer on this one. I remember first hearing people say this is different. It's grown man rap. First with De La Soul, when they released in 2004 their 2004 album, and they were like, "This is different. It's grown man bars. You know, it's for grown men." And that's when I first heard it, though. And what a bastardized saying that has become, because now, and look. When you got to look at what gets commercialized and popularized in the negative way, you always got to look at Jay-Z, because he's usually the culprit, because he's the only one with talent that can dilute something. You need talent to dilute something. And he's the only one with talent in the mainstream. There are no leaders of skill in the mainstream. You know who was a leader, was going to be a leader in the mainstream, giving us mainstream music that isn't so good, that is very poppy, but was anthemic? Was Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle had that music where you're like, I don't think I would like this with anybody else. But he was able to make anthems, able to give insights. He was able to make stuff that was anthemic and insightful, and even, I would say, I don't want to use the word righteous, but definitely uplifting. How's that? Uplifting. Positive. Hey, positive. But it definitely would be something that you would gawk at the instrumental. Like, you know, the major label album, the only one he was able to make, no one's running to get those instrumentals. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing the You know, unless you're doing a sequel to, Hustle and Flow. You know, you don't need those instrumentals. But a lot of people say, look, Nas is grown man. He's got to do grown man rap. He can't stay 20 years old for the rest of his life. That goes for some of his experiences, but I don't know why people can't get that out of their head, though, that the man is really grown and he actually talks about real issues and stuff. And he doesn't always decide to give you too many battle bars. The thing about King's Disease, and I'll be saying this repeatedly, there are no battle bars on King's Disease. You know, there's mention of his prowess and things like that a couple of times, some clever, but there's no elongated battle bars like, halftime. Like, you're not getting anything like that. But I don't think that's what people want, what they're asking for when they talk about, I want the old Nas. I think that they're just being bad listeners and they're doing it on a musical level. Since it was written, Nas albums have become musically diluted. I don't care what anybody says. It was written. Maybe you may have an argument that you like it better as a whole album because an album is led by the quality of the MC first, not the music. So if the music is good enough, which it was written is certainly good enough, we could say that because Nas actually elevated his rhyme skills, which is absolutely true, and it was written. I know it makes no sense since he made such a classic of classics. Definitely could be argued as the greatest album of all time. You know, his GOAT album argument. And yet, as an MC, he rhymed even better on so many levels. On It Was Written. His cadence, his mastery of what he was trying to do, his way of something he introduced that became part of his career, concepts. Whether it be subject matter concepts like Black Girl Lost, that's a blatant one, or it be based on like concepts as far as like gimmicks, like he did with I Gave You Power, right? This is next level stuff. So I get the argument if you say It Was Written better, but It Was Written though is a sloppier musical album. It is full of distortion, and unless you had speakers back then, and unless you were there playing it off your cassette, a lot of these songs used to distort. And we're talking about it made sense, it had to, because listen, Illmatic is Pete Rock, Primo, and Large Professor mainly, right? You got the one LES, right? Those guys make, they mastered the studio. You know what I'm saying? They mastered the studio. You know what I mean? So there was no way that if he doesn't use those guys, there's going to be a drop-off in technical quality. You know what I mean? And I think it's foolish when people try to say that It Was Written as a better beat album or something. You guys are fooling yourself. But when they say he doesn't know how to pick beats, I don't know how I choose that. I think that the problem is that he's probably not choosing people that are the best producers. It's the individuals he's picking, but not the beats that he's picking from those people. If you look at the people he works with, he actually picks the best work that they have that suits him. You know, like Stickman throughout Untitled and things like that, right? But here's the thing. Nas is a hard MC to produce for because he clearly is asking you for particular things. There are particular things that he has to say and that he is molding. So unlike most MCs where they just go, yo, give me your best beats and whatever inspires me, I'm going to do it. There's such a method of execution that's going on with his albums that the best beats that a producer gives him are not what he's choosing. He's choosing what's going to work to the themes and the insights of what he wants to express, you know? And this is the flaw of journalism. They haven't asked him this, you know? They haven't really gone into detail of the recording process of how he does this, though. Because no one's going to tell me that he wasn't doing half the work with that kid Hit Boy. You know what I mean? Do it like this, Hit Boy. You know, when I used to hate as a kid, we go to Coney Island, you go to the bumper cars though, and the guys that worked the bumper cars would ride the whole thing for you because you didn't know how to do it. You know that shit? I used to hate that. Don't ride this shit for me. Let me crash. Let me do it all wrong myself. Okay? Don't help me. They help you and give you a better ride though, but I didn't have better fun. You know what I mean? And there's no way in my mind that he wasn't guiding Hit Boy and being a backseat driver through this whole production. And I'm going to go through it. And yo, we're going to go track for track on this shit. Right? But let's start out with some more misnomers. Right? Because I'm going to go more into grown man rap. Or this is grown people music. You know, because, and I'll say it real quick now. And I'm going to break it down as we go along. Everybody goes, this is grown man music. But how can we get grown man? Why do we always get grown man bars with baby music? What's up with that? We get grown man bars and we get like Fisher Price melodies. We get easy, cheap 808s and all of that kind of stuff. And then I don't like this cliche where people refer to 90s classical boom bap style music as if that's outdated old people music. You know what I'm saying? As if it's babyish or not as grown. When the new music is actually more babyish, more easy to make. And I guess that would suffice as an old man rant if you were dismissing me right now. Right? But yo, I'm going to have beef with Rome Streets now because I told Rome Streets that this is going to be a topic. But Rome Streets had a tweet that had a lot of misnomers I wanted to go into. And I even wrote a whole thing. Okay? And this will be an introduction into this build on Nas's album. Rome Streets tweeted, right, before this is before King's Disease dropped. He said, some people can only hear bars. They don't grasp the concept of overall music. He put that in quotes. And then in caps, he wrote, Jay-Z makes better overall music than Nas. Always has. Nas just raps better than him, though. And of course, though, I told him I disagreed with mostly everything in there. And here's why, right? A major reason this even is important is because overall music between both of them is based on allowances. Let's talk about allowances, okay? With the music and with the fans. Both Jay and Nas have immense GOAT-level talent, though I will never say that Jay is a GOAT candidate, okay? That way nobody quotes me out of context and stuff like that. So, yo, soon you said Jay's a GOAT, he finally admitted it. Stop it, okay? Don't soundbite me, okay? Right? So, look, Jay will never be a GOAT candidate to me. His life, expressed in music, his life means all the right wrongs to people, so he's an icon. You know what I mean? I'm going to say that again. All the right ways of doing wrongs to get the right things is his life as an icon. You know what I mean? But his music means almost nothing unless you appreciate that he was a piece of shit who transmuted his piece of shit ways to get his supposedly legal billionaire status. No, let's keep it real. I'm sorry. He told you he was a piece of shit on the records. Right? I'm sorry, did I hear the evils correctly? Was I not listening correctly? Right? It's all in the Biggie vein, right? Suicidal thoughts. Biggie was suicidal because he said, I'm a piece of shit, you know? When I can die to go to hell because I'm a piece of shit. Ain't hard to tell, right? So an MC who admits his word isn't bond. And that's tough, right? That's tough on, right? And that's tough on them, right? Insert Dame Dash somewhere, right? Because if you heard, a lot of people forget that on Blueprint 3, he was like, hey, I'm not Santa Claus here. You can't sit on Black Santa's lap. You know? What was he saying there? He was saying his word is not bond. We only gave a handshake. The man admitted that his word is not bond. Okay? These are my beefs. Who is literally, in his career as Def Jam president and on, has literally 48 laws of powered his way through his stable of artists for style, essence, and reinvigoration. So overall, there's such a loose morality of what integrity can apply to his song choices, right? He can make anything work. Lyrically, there's no morality, there's no ethics, there's no holds barred. He's never given you a standard of integrity, so when he couples it with commercial tracks, it doesn't matter. It isn't just that he is more vocally dexterous than Nas. That's an absolute truth. There's no way around it. Jay-Z as an MC is probably one of the most technically dexterous MCs ever in the universe, and people don't really know that because he chooses kind of not to be. You know what I mean? And that's why, if you really know your MCing, it's why he rhymes outside of the pocket all the time. Because he's so dexterous, it doesn't matter. He could break the rules. You know what I mean? It allows him to rhyme over anything, right? And let's not forget, though, just so we put things in context and how it all tumbles from there. One of his major hits was a jack of an older rap hit from a group still viable. Or did we forget EPMD? Do your research, okay? The entire In My Lifetime album saga was literally pop rap and B-sides, hardcore B-sides alternating, okay? It was sample Glenn Frey, hey, Premier, give me a track. Sample this pop song, this, you know what I mean? And by the time some albums like Blueprint 3 come along, everybody thinks now that Rod Stewart is a dope sample. You know what I mean? So when one makes that musical note of a disintegrity, fraudulence, then it's but see what he said. See, you never stood out there. See, the argument is after Jay-Z raps though is like they go, well, you know, see, you never stood out there pitching that yay, so then I play Mobb Deep the entire 90s, right? And at the same time, Prodigy is adding to the with Ray and Go, setting the standard for the lyrical crime rhyme MCs, not rappers, we see today, like the great Rome Streets that I'm mentioning here, right? And all of this becomes the real reason, right, Jay, and I'm not mentioning Rome here, right? He truly will be studied by more than me, hopefully, over the years. And a simple psychoanalysis of him in this tweet is just blasphemous and disrespectful. Okay, that's not the point. But what I am saying but the real reason, right, that Jay, as I riff here, gets an allowance is because the success of the black man is often nearly futile. Think of that for a minute. The success of the black man is often seen as futile. It has very little chance of succeeding. So why have honor and integrity, right, in that whole journey? Why have honor and integrity in a whole journey that you could get taken out the next day by a crooked cop, or not a crooked cop, a regular cop? You see, a regular cop is the one that takes us out. So when we see someone succeed and give a goddamn about the integrity of an art form or anything, I'm just going to hustle my way through it and go boom, boom, use my skills to go all the way. People appreciate that. I was going to say we, but it's not me. But then it gets appreciated that we have somebody that's giving them back American ways. I'm going to give you American and give you the most rugged individualist that you've ever seen. That's exactly why Michael Eric Dyson was able to hagiography rip through his whole Jay-Z book and say the most outlandish shit about Jay-Z. And when he gets on top, he'll trickle down all of the blessings back onto us, though. So how can an artist with that type of allowance, right, given to him, make a song without musical integrity or with the musical integrity? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He does whatever he wants. Now to the listeners, to my stuck in the 90s niggas, right? Which my producer knows that, I'm talking all this though, but it's really me. I'm talking about me, right? Nas is different. He's seen as the fruit of his mentor, Large Professor. Large Professor, to me, who is an absolute candidate for the most purest example of that elusive combination of musical integrity, ingenuity, and standard bearer of hip-hop each and every time. Whether when you go see Large Professor DJ, when you say Large Professor MC, when you hear his albums, when you see Large Professor in the corner, what do? You go, "Oh, that's fucking hip hop." Tell me you don't. When we see Large Professor somewhere or we're around Large Professor, you feel more hip hop. You feel like a hip hop beat. Tell me that's not true. Every time I'm around Large Professor, I feel like a piece of vinyl. You know what I mean? Like I feel like wax, like I could cut my face. You know what I mean? Like a scratch would make sounds if I cut my face. He's musical integrity. And the reverence Extra beholds extends and has never left, really, those remnants. It's left those remnants on Nas's career from the beginning. There were never going to be the allowances that, let's say, a Jay-Z gets, but only expectations and needs. And by the way, as far as allowances, though, it's really Brooklyn niggas. Brooklyn niggas, we give the most allowances to niggas for everything. Brooklyn keeps on taking it, man. KRS-One, he knew what he was talking about. Brooklyn could do whatever the hell that they want. You know what I mean? It's just evil. It's just evil. Just evil. Right? But for Nas, we needed one person that could be in the mainstream and hold the banner. You know what I mean? Do you go after listening to a Jay album and say, wow, Jay-Z really repped for hip-hop music and culture? No one says that. No one says that. Only pop audience say that. Only gentrifiers say that. You know what I'm saying? Only our people that desire to be rich and are fiending over the J-Bay iconography are doing that. And then, of course, my producer is doing that. But he's one of a kind, though. You know what I mean? And he's not a sellout, though, so I don't know. I can't explain it. It's a Brooklyn thing. It's Brooklyn. I don't know. But no one says it's pure. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. Now, with Rome's tweet, though, here's how we take it full circle, right? With Rome's tweet, all of Jay's music will work. Nas' forays into anything frivolous or pop will be awkward and badly reserved or badly spoken of all the time. Because there's a standard that's being thrown on, whether fairly or unfairly, because all artists have to experiment. But when you have such high standards, though, you're not allowed to experiment. Now, as I see it, Nas is clearly the better songwriter. He has concepts, themes, technique displays, and subject matter on a much more profound level. It's not even close to me, the comparison between him and Jay. Like, it's an unfair comparison to me. The gap of comparison to me is as large as comparing the technically brilliant Biggie and the thematic songwriter and persona character of ideal struggling black man warrior that Tupac was. It's totally two different things. And the truth is that the difference between those two is that one person, their music ends up meaning more. Let's be honest. And Rome was right, though. Nas does rap better. So, on to the story. I had these tweets out there, right? And I said that Nas made... Let me read my tweets real quick, and then we'll go into the music song for song. Nas making an enjoyable, repeatable, ever-strong, lyrical, very soul funk album with a proven trash, trap, rap club... I don't know the category. All rap matters journalists can let me know. Producer for the most part, and peppering mid-level B-star sellouts throughout is amazing to me. I am amazed at this album. Okay, King's Disease is what it would be like if Michael Jordan played with today's Knicks. Jordan, aka Nas, with a scoring title and a 17-65 record. AZ and Mega is from the All-Star game. And then I said, having Big Sean and Lil Durk do anything on a Nas album is like Shannon Sharpe as head coach having LeBron take the last shot instead of Jordan. These are respect fake moments are when you allow the whack to eat. I'm sorry. Nas let the whack eat. That's just the way I see it. I cannot get over it. I won't. And a little take on Dre's lyrics here. Dr. Dre's lyrics. I hate false oxymoronic phrases like Malcolm X with a check. Or Che Guevara with bling on. It's like saying Michael Jordan with no rings. There's no version of Malcolm or Che Guevara selling out in a cool, hip way. All right? There's none. And they definitely ain't it. So now, the thing about the lyrics, I'm going to start with lyrics, then do, for each song, I'll do lyrics and then music. Overall, lyrically, Nas can still rhyme. It's the same things I said about Lost Tapes too. Same things I said in my book about Nasir with Kanye. But what's intriguing is there's no real battle bars. So everything's thematic. Everything keeps to his persona. So even the battle bars are really amplifying a character of insight that he's giving you. You know, this older person that has now become rich, has now become a celebrity, and now thinks things differently. King's Disease. There's nothing you can say about this, but Nas continues to have great introductory songs on a lot of his albums, though. The last couple of albums, he's really introduced them well. Like, I'm thinking Life is Good. I'm thinking the Untitled album. When he goes a cappella, it is a reason, you know, like, and Hit Boy is not a great producer by any means. But Hit Boy utilized Nas a cappella a lot because that was a fail-safe device. I can't produce anything that's gonna do as good as that. So let me amplify him. Blue Benz. Blue Benz is not super lyrical, a very great flow. The thing about Blue Benz is that it kind of epitomizes the quality of the album. If you don't hear the album on a great speaker, you're not gonna get the most out of it. That's why Primo loves Blue Benz, because Blue Benz really knocks on the right system. It has a very thick bass line. And the bass line is extremely thick, and it reverberates. You know what I mean? And the thing about it is it has two parts to the bass line. It has the bass drums, but then it has like this roaring part. Hit Boy uses a lot of that throughout the album, though. Unfortunately, though, he's just not as good at being diverse, so it affects him. But that's one of the stronger beats on the album, though. Absolutely. The real strength of the album is in the first couple of songs, and in the anthems, and then the catchy songs to me. Car 85 is great. To me, this is a really great ode to the old school, those old school times, his memories. And what I love about it, though, is that it ends up being a pop song, but not for any of the elements of the actual music or the track, but absolutely for the way he laid out the concept and the way that he made Car 85 like a gimmicky catchphrase. That's how you do a hardcore pop song. It really was well made. And Ultra Black, a song that's really good. It's not super lyrical. Again, this would sound corny with a lot of other guys because being this uplifting would be preachy and didactic, and PBS 13-ish. But it always works for Nas, though. I've only had a few days worth with this album, obviously, less than a week. But there's another track that sounds derivative of Nas' earlier anthem. So let me tell you my strategy here, what was going on, I think. I think that often the strategy for veterans is to have their sound handed off to new. This happens with a lot of genres, where veterans hand off their sound, their trademark sound, to a young producer, and basically have the producer reenact a lot of their greatest works, but with an updated sound. And I think that's what Hit Boy was trying to do here. Maybe because Nas is directing him directly, or because that's what he was doing, studying this, and that's why Nas appealed to with the kid and worked him. If you think about it, though, since we were mentioning Jay-Z, Jay-Z does this all the time, except he goes poppier and poppier. You know what I mean? But I think this is one of the songs that harkens to me. Now we get into track 5, 6, and 7 are where the disgusting deletables start. 27 Summers, though. Now remember Heart of the City? Heart of the City, Jay-Z said, Jigga held you down 6 summers. Damn, where's the love? And then Nas just darted him and said, 27! I gave you 27 summers because even when he didn't give you an album, though, you were still living off the albums he gave you. 27 summers. The type of music on 27 Summers is always the type of music that's trash, okay? The egg timer, which is the famous musician's tool of the trap beat, is on high frequency. There's the disgustingly isolated clap snare and the 808 wow wow bass line that makes so much trash rap, trap. There's not much to say. So the song is less than 2 minutes because Nas even ran out of shit to say. Because Nas ran out of nothing to say-isms on the song, and he can only talk about being rich for so long. So the song is a deletable. If you delete it, it's okay. If you have fun with it and want to dance to it, that's fine too. just let me know. But check this out. I'm gonna save this for another show, but I'm gonna use this song as an example later of how trap rap really defines stuff. But there's a lot of techniques here. Replace Me. Anytime Nas mentions Uchiwali, it's a bad thing. You know you're going for a bad song here. You know what I mean? And it's not a bad song, but every time he mentions Uchiwali, I cringe. Definitely a deletable. There's nothing really. This is a dope beat for a Keisha Cole album. Like, I found a lot of the beats here. These are bangers for Keisha Cole, not really a Nas album. But I saw people say Big Sean held his own. Where or in what universe did Big Sean held his own? I know that you believe in stars, and just like stars, you know your words got a lot of power. And it's supposed to mean like this trifold thing where he's talking about stars, the network, and power the show. This is weak. I bought you diamonds even though I got a heart of gold. That's a Hallmark card. That's a Hallmark card from a billionaire. That's weak. And then he said, and on your enemies we rode. I go Picasso, Art of War. Picasso didn't write the Art of War. What a fail. That's Machiavelli. What a fail. Yeah. And then the Art of War is referring to is the one that Pac was referring to, which would have been Machiavelli. So fail a million times on that. I'm not your ex, I'm your ecstasy. Okay, come on. Let's quit it here. Deletables. Okay, so lyrical moments. I'm going to go through lyrical moments real quick. All Bad. I loved All Bad, but I'm not in the hype with Anderson .Paak. I'm sorry. Anderson .Paak often hits me as a very Curtis Mayfield, but with a diluted synth. You know, I'm just really not big on him. I don't see the masterful originality. The previous song, Till the War Was Won, another great song that was ruined by Little Durk. When I hear Little Durk rap, sing, whatever the hell you want to call it, though, I get embarrassed, though. I feel like an old man wearing a leather jacket to work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm past my prime, you know? It sounds corny. Let's see. But here's the thing. Once you start to get cringe-worthy stuff, even though Nas is saying some really great things about relationships, he becomes very insightful with that. You get the definition. A barrage of social political criticism. Full Circle. A really another insightful relationship song, though, where, yes, Foxy Brown misstepped. She did sound awkward on the song. AZ was marvelous. And although the song could have ended with that, Cormega was okay. He really held his own. And I have some commentaries, but I'm going to save it for my Woe Man build, part 2. 10 points. Another insightful song about the celebrities of righteousness. A lot of the insights about being a rich celebrity as a poor black man becoming a rich celebrity that we would have wanted from Jay-Z. Instead, we get them from Nas, though. And, of course, The Cure. You know what I mean? The Cure. You know what's funny? He talked about Lennon, McCartney and Lennon, and that understanding, if you listen closely to it, is actually almost what he does the opposite of, because he does go away from his musical lane. He says they just want you to switch your lanes so they can hate on your ass. But a lot of the songs here go against his musical lane, you know, which I'm not against because there's experimentation. I just think that anytime the major problem in music of the black diaspora is the sound of the roboticized voice. I don't know why we're obsessed with it. It leads to more worse songs than ever, though. And the only complaint in this album, though, is always going to be music. The more introspective, the more slow tempo Nas is exactly what the album was designed to do as an introspection, and it really works. And they give you some anthems, like Ultra Black and others. But ending the album on Spicy is one of the worst bonus tracks I've ever heard in my damn life. You know what I mean? I thought like some inappropriately, obscenely dressed underage girls were gonna pop up out of my headphones and start twerking. That's how the song starts. So I hate that type of beat. You know what I mean? And if you think A$AP Ferg or Fivio, if they held their own, though, I don't know, what were they holding that was their own? I don't know. What was that? Tell me what they were holding. You know what I mean? It was despicable. So you got the 3 deletables. 27 Summers, I won't get mad if I hear it outside. Replace Me, I'm going to laugh at the end with Big Sean. Till the War's Won, I'm going to put the screw face, and not in a good way, like when you hear a Bronze Nazareth beat, when I hear Little Dirk singing. But I love the lyrics. I love the flute. I love the aura that was. I love the acapella part. And All Bad I Could Take It, though, even though that technically is a Keisha Cole banger. You know? It's not, it feels like a banger because it came after those, but it's really a Keisha Cole banger, you know? But there's so much lyrical worth, and there's so many intricacies that Nas does to be studied, to listen to, and it is a listening, it is a great listening album, you know, as all Nas's albums are. So it's definitely one to get. If you're a collector of Nas, you ought to have it. But out of the 13 songs, that mid-range there after Ultra Black, 27 Summers, Replace Me, Till the War's Won, you know, you could delete those. Those are hard to repeat and definitely spicy. You know what I mean? And spicy on that last thing before I let you all go. It's not grown man music, though, if you have grown man bars and then baby toddler music, okay? I don't know why it's grown. You know why? A lot of people are... It's grown man music if it appeals to more and more people. And that is exactly what hip-hop isn't. So that's the big problem here. You know what I mean? And again, Nas is still a GOAT candidate. There are flaws, though. I hope that he doesn't have to make these kind of albums again. I'd love to him make an album, though, that doesn't have so many pop forays or experiments. But with that said, though, get the album. It's worth it. Until next time, though, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce. I'm your host, SUNEZ, a.k.a. S.STREET. And as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.